The Cincinnati Open had just witnessed a phenomenon unlike anything in its history. Ticket requests had surged past 53,000 as fans clamored for a glimpse of the Filipino sensation. Prices jumped nearly 70% overnight, from around $75 to $147, and still, they sold out. Tournament director Bob Moran, a man who had seen legends like Federer and Nadal grace his courts, was left stunned. I haven't seen anything like this, he admitted. Then came the match, and then came the defeat. When Alexandra Eala fell to Amanda Anisimova in a heartbreaking 6-4, 4-6, 2-6 battle, something happened that no one expected. The tournament didn't just lose a player. It lost its heartbeat. Ticket sales collapsed. The electric atmosphere that had defined the week vanished into thin air, and millions of dollars in revenue were suddenly at risk. This is the story of how one player's exit triggered a financial earthquake, and why the tennis establishment is now scrambling to understand the power of Eala mania. The numbers are staggering. When Alex Eala arrived in Cincinnati, the tournament's ticketing system was overwhelmed by demand. Reports of 53,000 ticket requests flooded the system. The organizers, sensing an opportunity, raised prices by nearly 70% overnight, from approximately $75 to $147. The response? Fans bought them anyway. Every single seat sold out. But the economic impact went far beyond the official box office. The resale market exploded. Second-round tickets that were originally around $86 skyrocketed to $685. Upper-level seats reached triple digits, and even the normally budget-friendly grandstand seats were caught in the price surge. The reason was simple. The Filipino diaspora in North America had mobilized in force. The community saw Eala as a hero, a modern-day Manny Pacquiao who had given them a reason to unite and celebrate. Millions of Filipinos live in different parts of the world, one report noted. With the rise of Alex Eala, many of them found a new athlete to support, a new hero. The phenomenon extended beyond ticket sales. When Nike released a $42 black t-shirt for Eala, it sold out immediately. Meanwhile, merchandise for other Nike stars like Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Aryna Sabalenka remained available on the official store. Eala's marketability had surpassed even the biggest names in tennis. The scenes at the Cincinnati Open were unlike anything tournament officials had witnessed. Bob Moran, the tournament director, described the moment the gates opened. Basically, at 8 o'clock, that line was already formed of Eala fans at the front gate. We didn't open until 9:30 p.m., so they sat out there for an hour and a half just waiting. And as soon as those gates opened, it was a stream of fans to court 3 to get the best seats possible. The atmosphere was electric. Fans screamed as if they were at a basketball match, a sport that has deep cultural roots in the Philippines. Some fans had never watched a tennis match in their lives, but showed up to support the Filipino sensation. The dedication was extraordinary. One fan drove nearly 8 hours from Toronto to Cincinnati after watching Eala at the Canadian Open, just to see her play again. Another group of college friends planned their annual reunion around Eala's match, treating it like a pilgrimage rather than a tennis event. For the Filipino community, Eala wasn't just a tennis player. She was a connection to home. Even though they are far from their own country, when Alex Eala plays, they get a chance to feel connected to the Philippines again, the report noted. And they are willing to spend to experience that. When Eala lost to Anisimova in the third round, the tournament's financial engine suddenly sputtered. The match had been a war of attrition, a 20-minute fifth game featuring 13 deuces, a stunning comeback from the American, and Eala taking a 2-0 lead in the deciding set before losing 6 consecutive games. Anisimova, who had won 6-4, 4-6, 6-2, acknowledged the crowd's impact. There was quite a bit of support for me tonight, so I really appreciate that, because I know how loved Alex is, she said. It was a remarkable admission. The American recognized that she was playing against an opponent and an entire nation. But once the final point was played, the energy drained from the stadium. The stands that had been packed with waving Philippine flags were suddenly half empty. The chants of "Let's go Alex" that had echoed through the Linear Family Tennis Center fell silent. The atmosphere that had made the tournament the most talked-about event of the season had vanished. The financial impact was immediate. Ticket sales collapsed. The resale market, which had been booming, crashed. The millions of dollars that organizers had been counting on suddenly seemed at risk. What had happened in Cincinnati was not an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern that had been building all year. The Eala Effect had transformed the WTA Tour. At the Australian Open, fans formed long queues outside a packed stadium in Melbourne. At the Canadian Open, Eala sold out every match at Sobeys Stadium, forcing organizers to move her to center court to accommodate the demand. At the Washington Open, where she won her first WTA title, ticket sales surged. The phenomenon had caught the attention of the tennis establishment. Felix Auger-Aliassime, the Canadian star who will partner Eala in US Open mixed doubles, described the impact. "I get to feel what it's like to have the Eala effect and a fan base behind me. It's kind of funny because she's younger than me, but I feel like she has the fan base and she's carrying the crowd." Eala's influence extended to sponsorship and merchandise. Her $42 Nike t-shirt sold out instantly, while Alcaraz, Sinner, and Sabalenka's merchandise remained available. The 21-year-old Filipina had achieved something that not even the biggest names in men's tennis had managed. But the financial dependence on Eala was also a vulnerability. As one report noted, she has packed venues in every city she's in and garnered millions of engagement, drawing an entirely different demography from the sports-crazed Philippines to the tennis world. When she left, that demographic left with her. Eala's exit from Cincinnati exposed a hard truth. The tennis establishment had become dependent on a single player's presence to draw massive crowds. It was a situation that no one had anticipated, and one that the sport would have to address. The Eala effect had brought a new demographic to tennis. Fans who had never watched a tennis match before were showing up in droves to see the Filipina sensation. They were treating her matches like cultural events, not just sporting contests. The emotional connection was unparalleled. But the flip side was undeniable. When Eala left, so did the fans. The tournament's financial health, which had been buoyed by the ticket surge, suddenly seemed fragile. The millions in revenue that organizers had been counting on were now at risk. Despite the defeat, Eala's North American hardcourt swing had been remarkable. She had compiled an 8-2 record, won her first WTA title, and climbed to number 18 in the world. She had also passed the $3 million mark in career prize money. Her future was bright, and her star was only rising. But the Cincinnati Open had learned a valuable lesson. The Eala mania was a blessing and a curse. The tournament had been transformed by her presence, and it would never be the same without her.